Welcome back, adventurer. This week's creatures have been described as the reason to collect all your dog's eye buggers, why you shouldn't trust a starving horse, and the manifestation of emotional distress. So come, pull up a stool at Creature Tavern. Adventurer, always nice to see your face. Grab yourself a stein and a stool and prepare yourself for 3 more creatures of mystery. We'll start this week with tales of the Loup Garou from French folklore. And fun fact, there are a lot of Loup Garou variants out there, each weaving their own unique and terrifying narrative. From what I've cobbled together, the main 3 seem to be Ragarou, Lagahou, and what we're covering today, the Loup Garou. And if that wasn't enough, here's another fun fact. The name Loup Garou translates directly to wolfman in French. But do not mistake this fairy fiend for your common werewolf. Unlike those bound by the phases of the moon, the Loup Garou shifts at will, retaining its human intelligence and cunning. It does not succumb to mindless savagery, making it an even greater threat. Some folks around here describe the beast as a massive gaunt wolf with unnervingly human-like eyes, while others claim it takes a form that is neither fully man nor beast. A monster with the head of a wolf and the body of a man. That's tickling someone's fancy. The scrolls I hunted down say the Loup Garou is always someone you know, perhaps a former lover turned bitter, or a jealous friend. While other stories claim Loup Garous come from those who stray from righteousness. Some whisper that only men are cursed to become the Loup Garou, but I've struggled to find much evidence to confirm that. Unfortunately, adventurer, unlike typical werewolves, a Loup Garou does not bear obvious signs of its affliction in human form. It walks among its neighbours undetected, its nature hidden until the darkness calls. So be careful who you mingle with. There could be a Loup Garou in this very tavern. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the Loup Garou originated in France, specifically during the medieval age. So that means there could have been a Loup Garou knight. It's not likely, but it's not impossible. From what I've been able to source, Loup Garou can be found lurking through the misty woodlands and village outskirts of Normandy, Brittany, and the Loire Valley. These regions are littered in dense forests, rolling hills, and ancient homes, providing the perfect cover for a creature that thrives in secrecy. The deep, untamed woods conceal its movements, while the fog-draped moors and abandoned roads ensure that those who travel alone at night do so at their own peril. Though many I spoke to assume the creature remains in the countryside. There are tales of the Loup Garou slinking through the alleyways of towns, where dim lanterns flicker and cobblestone streets echo with hurried steps. In truth, there's no place truly safe, for wherever man gather adventurer, the Loup Garou is never far behind. Like I said earlier, the Loup Garou holds onto its human intelligence. This means it can plan, manipulate, and even disguise itself among mortals, choosing when and where to strike. Its curse doesn't bind it to the moon, allowing it to roam freely in both daylight and darkness. Although I have it on good accord, they favour the cold night. Kind of like tonight, young adventurer. Now, unlike the classic werewolf, the Loup Garou's true power lies in the curse it spreads. I had a patron swing by just the other night, told me of the beast's affliction. He said anyone unfortunate enough to cross paths with the creature and spill its blood, they'll be marked. The Loup Garou, now wounded, will revert to its human form, revealing its true identity, of course, and the one who shed its blood then inherits a strain of the curse, doomed to prowl the night as a Loup Garou, but only for a very punctual 101 days. However, if the victim speaks of their new supernatural qualification before the 101-day deadline, the person they're speaking to will also become a Loup Garou. So, adventurer, it's best to keep quiet and ride out this time-sensitive disease. Or I suppose, if your party's into it, you could become a party of super strong, self-aware wolf people. And if you play your cards right, you could reset the countdown each time. I will say though, I've not seen a single record, scroll or story of someone doing this, and that might be for a reason. Have I piqued your interest, adventurer? Are you eager to head out in hopes of spying the creature? Well, you best pay close attention to this next part, as I'll spill a secret on how to do exactly that. If you wish to witness the creature, but maybe you're a little too shy, then you'll need some yampi. One old woman I spoke with claimed that if you take the boogers from the corner of a dog's eye, that's the yampi, and, bear with me, rub it in your own eye, then peer through a keyhole at midnight, you may see the Loup Garou without being seen yourself. I'm yet to test this, so if you give it a go, please do report back. I'm eager to see just how many dog eye buggers this is going to take. So should you encounter a Loup Garou, heed my advice, and you'll escape curse-free, and well, not dead as well, probably. Your best bet is to not engage with the creature. But if you're forced into a corner, then strike using blunt force weapons only. Fists, hammers, even shields. And be careful where you hit it. That means no face shots. Remember, if you draw the blood of a Loup Garou, you'll gain its curse and join the ranks of wolf. Now this next point, I can see you thinking it's counter to the previous, but it's not, trust me. You won't be striking the creature with these. Take some scissors, and yes, from what I'm able to see, it has to be a pair of scissors. Open them into the shape of a cross, and place them on top of an open Bible at the head of a bed. This situation can be used to trap a Loup Garou, as it forces the creature to turn human on the spot. That does rest on your ability to invite a wolf creature into your bed. And on that note, I see the new barrels have arrived. While I get these plumbed in, why don't you grab yourself something to cool off, adventurer? I see that plan's got you heated. Greetings, adventurers. It's your friendly, overworked Tavernkeeper here. Welcome to episode 6 of Creature Tavern. Hope you're having a blast and haven't been turned to stone, cursed, or mildly inconvenienced by any goblins yet. A quick heads up, if you share the show using the hashtag Creature Tavern on X or Blue Sky, as I'm sure you're all aware now, you might just join the path of legend. Perhaps you'll appear as one of the legendary Goose Riders, famous for delivering post to treacherous locations all across the plain. Or maybe a humble, sleepy chef who accidentally cooks potions instead of pies. Either way, eternal glory and very mild chaos could be yours for eternity. And if you're listening on YouTube, drop a comment. I'd love to hear which creatures you'd like us to cover next, or which obscure mythologies deserve a visit. And hey, if you're enjoying your stay, why not tell someone? A friend, a foe, your dog. The tavern has no ad budget, and a very aggressive rent-collecting banshee, so word of mouth keeps the fires burning. And before we go, I just want to thank everybody who's already been listening to the podcast. We recently hit a milestone of 10 downloads, I believe, from various podcasting sites, and I really appreciate it. It brings a smile to my face to see those numbers, and I really hope that you're all enjoying this wild and weird thing I'm putting together. Alright, that's enough loitering back here. Let's return to the mystery of the tavern. Thank you for lending me your ears, adventurers. Adventurer, I'll be right over. That's the new barrels installed. Did you manage to conjure up a plan to invite the beast into your bed? You'll have to enlighten me on that plan of yours sometime. But for right now, we'll continue with this week's creatures. And we're jumping from one wolf to another, with the Kludde, from Dutch and Belgian folklore. The Kludde is known by many names. The Kleur, the Clare, or Water Kludde. And its appearances are just as varied. I've spent many nights listening to patrons and adventurers share their encounters, each more bizarre than the last, Some swear it's a demonic waterhound. Others insist it's a shape-shifting demon capable of taking countless forms. One woman painted a curious image of a man wreathed in dog skin, while a grizzled-looking wanderer swore on his mother's soul that he'd seen the Kludde as a bearded man with a great fishtail. Still, others have described it as a man with goat hooves, or a twisted figure with the head of a dog. Some claim it carries two eerie blue flames that hover around its head. Whether as spectral eyes or a mere decoration, no one can say. And of course, there are those who dismiss all speculation and simply call it what they believe to be a werewolf, or perhaps the devil himself. But after following every lead and piecing together the most persistent accounts, one description stands out above all. The Kludde is called a tormentor, and the form it seems to favour is that of a monstrous black wolf, towering upright on its hind legs, with bat-like wings sprouting out its back, and clad in glistening green scales. And if that alone isn't warning enough, listen for the sound of a rattling chain, usually dragging from its left ankle. But by the time you hear that, the Kludde will have already marked you as its next victim. Now, if you thought the appearance of the Kludde was wild, dear adventurer, wait till you hear of its origins. These stretch back deep into the 18th century. The legends speak of a decaying cottage that stood in the forests just outside the small village of Ternat. No one could tell me where the cottage came from, or how long it had stood, only that a witch, as ghastly as the devil, resided within. The villagers knew the witch consulted with dark spirits, often inviting the damned in, and unsurprisingly, they weren't the biggest fans of this. So the villagers banded together to discuss ways they could remove the witch before the evil leaked out and into the surrounding village streets. But this didn't go exactly to plan, as every single one of the villagers were too scared to act, afraid they'd end up joining the damned souls within this little, timeless cottage. But as luck would have it, a storm like no other began to roll over the land, consuming the village and surrounding forests, and in the swirling chaos, a stray bolt of lightning struck the cottage, burning it and all its inhabitants to the ground. For the longest time, no villager dared disturb the charred remains, for fear dark magic had leaked into the earth. Till one day, a landowner, as foolish as he was wealthy, sent workers over to clear the land. And as soon as the very first shovel grazed the witch's corpse, the ground shook and the sky roared. The burned corpse violently cracked open, and a small, ash-covered man climbed out. Within moments, accounts of that day say he grew to an unnatural height. His body contorted, and his screams mutated into growls. His face lengthened into a wolf's snout, his legs snapped back and bent into that of a dog's, and claws jutted out from his hands and feet. The Kludde was born. How's that for an origin story? If you're still with me, adventurer, I have a little more on this weird little ash baby, like how the Kludde enjoys haunting lonely places, specifically hollow trees or the shadows under bridges. It's most often found in the Scheldt region, like Dendermonde, where it lives in the Dender, Antwerp and the Zenner marshes. The villagers of East Flanders and Flemish Brabant whisper of its presence in their forests and fields. Locals, they tell me, the Kludde prowls roads that cut through abandoned farmlands, like those between Dilbeek, Zemst and Zemstlaar, and it's said to be especially treacherous in the municipality of Wieklulen. There exists a path named Kludde Pad, a reminder of the beast's long-standing presence in this region, and these people know better than to walk certain paths alone. Even in the areas around Antwerp, such as Heemixem and Skelle, there are rumours of the Kludde. The beast does not confine itself to land alone. Many residents say it's bound to water, emerging from the depths only to satisfy its dark desires. So beware, adventurer, as the Kludde's drawn to isolated roads and those who walk them alone. Whether in the depths of Dendra or hidden in the marshes of Zemst, the Kludde is always watching, in one form or another. So after all that, I bet you're thinking the Kludde's some evil, deadly predator. It certainly gives the impression. But it turns out, the shape-shifting monster dog, its motivations often seem to be driven by an inherent desire to have a laugh at your expense. So the Kludde is a trickster, a master of deception, and a creature of many faces. I did my best to track down every account I could, just for you, adventurer, and here's the full list of what this thing can become. Human, cat, bird, wolf, horse, malnourished horse, snake, frog, bat, sheep, a white-haired dog, a red-haired dog, rabbit, pig, woman, and believe it or not, tree. And if that wasn't enough, some old scrolls even claim the Kludde can command the wind and control water. Talk about overachiever. So what kind of mischief does it get up to? Just the other day, a fella stormed in here, dripping wet and cursing the Kludde to the depths of hell. Said he was out adventuring when he came across a strangely well-kept horse. Swore up and down that the horse invited him to ride. And well, what would you do if a polite horse offered you a lift? He hopped on, of course. Next thing he knew, the horse had took off like a bat out of the underworld, galloped straight to a lake, and flung him headfast into the water. As he bobbed about, gasping for air, he swears he saw that horse roll over onto its back, kicking its legs in the air and howling with laughter. But by the time he dragged himself ashore, he had gone. Completely vanished. And that's just one trick in the Kludde's book. Ever hear of a tree growing so tall its branches disappear into the clouds? Well, more than a few wanderers claim they have. Watched a tiny sapling shoot up in seconds, stretched impossibly high. Then from somewhere above the clouds, they always hear it. Laughter. The Kludde, no doubt watching them gawk. And it could just as easily have been a stray cat before that, one with big, pitiful eyes that make you want to scoop it up, only for it to explode into a monstrous size, right in your arms. And you see that farmer over there? Aye, the one nursing his ale in the corner. He'll tell you about this bird. Great ugly thing. Kept flying over his farm every night at exactly 2 a.m. Screeching its own name. Kludde, Kludde, Kludde. Until every last beast in the barn was spooked out its wits. Seems the Kludde likes being known. It wants you to know it's there. It wants a laugh. And always, always, at someone else's expense. But its most famous game? That'd be the piggyback ride. If you ever find yourself walking alone at night, especially after a few drinks, and you hear the sound of chains rattling behind you, you better bolt. Not that it'll help much. No matter how fast you go, the chains will always keep pace, dragging just behind you. And the moment you turn to look, bam! The Kludde's on your back. Not attacking you, not clawing, just clinging. And it won't let go. It'll stay there, wrapped around you, growing heavier and heavier until the first rays of dawn break, or you cross the threshold of your home. Then just like that, it vanishes. That's of course unless you're in Breendock. There, the game has a deadlier twist. As the Kludde sits there on your back, growing heavier and heavier, it'll begin pressing down with an unnatural weight until you're crushed dead. So if you're planning a trip through Breendock, best keep your wits about you. And the Kludde's pranks don't end there. You could fall victim without even coming into contact with the beast. I found many tomes that speak of a curious ability Kluddes have. Apparently, simply being in the presence of a Kludde can cause milk and butter to turn rancid. I couldn't find much to say if this extends to other dairy products, So I'd appreciate it if you take this yogurt out with you, should you go in search of a Kludde adventurer. And you know what? You can even keep it. Should it turn foul, of course. Their presence is also capable of making cows and horses infertile. Just please don't ask me how I found this one out. Most folk, they'll tell you the Kludde is just a prankster. A menace that enjoys scaring drunks and laughing at their screams. But not everyone agrees. A few stories paint it as something far, far darker. There's talk of Kluddes that have slaughtered entire stables of horses in the dead of night. And worse still, tales of lone women walking through the forests only to be taken and never seen again. But you know what's truly sinister? The way it breaks a person's mind. You see, the Kludde has a talent, perhaps its most dangerous of all. It can choose a target and make itself invisible to everyone but them. Imagine that. You're out with your friends when suddenly, there it is, following you, stalking you. Never attacking, never too close, just watching from a distance. Day and night. When you scream for help, when you beg your friends to tell you they can see it too, the Kludde just laughs. That deep, mocking laugh that only you can hear. And it won't stop. Not until you've lost every shred of sanity you had left. And then, when you've finally snapped, when you're rocking back and forth, eyes wild, muttering to yourself, it'll simply disappear with a final chuckle on the wind. Now, losing your marbles is bad, but not as bad as another record I found. There was this old journal I dug up, brittle dust-covered thing, that told of a few unlucky folks who actually managed to pin a Kludde against a wall. Unsurprisingly, the Kludde didn't seem to care at all. It just perked up its eyes, began to stare down the man restraining him, and shot fire from its eyes, obviously immediately killing the man. Now I'm sure an adventurer as brave as yourself isn't scared off by all that, so if you take me up on my little dairy experiment, here's what you'll need to know in order to avoid being the butt of one of the Kludde's jokes. If you're out on a walk and you hear that unmistakable metal jingle, just keep walking. As the faster you run, the faster the Kludde will chase you. Its inhuman speed and stamina make it the best long-distance runner. And typically, the Kludde prefers the night. I suppose it's easier to prank under the cover of night, so keep that in your back pocket, adventurer. Use the daylight. This one pops up a lot when dealing with the supernatural, and it's no different for the Kludde. I guess when you spawn from the corpse of a devil-dealing witch, you're bound to have a bad relationship with the gods. So bring holy water, and don't be afraid to pray. I can't say this will definitely work, but it probably won't make things worse. And don't bother trying to restrain the creature. If the story of the man with charred holes for eyes wasn't enough, every other record I found of people trying to capture this beast said it was like trying to grab smoke. Smoke so hot it scorched the flesh from their hands. So please, adventurer, don't try to capture it. Don't try to hug this beast. You're only going to hurt yourself. If you're returning from an adventure and your home's in sight, then I disregard what I said earlier and run immediately. Once you're across the threshold, you'll be safe. The Kludde, much like the common vampire, cannot cross this barrier. If it tries, poof, it'll turn into smoke. And here's a twofer. I had a lovely lady from Weakerland stop by. She told me of the time a Kludde hopped on her back, and in an attempt to shake the creature off, she ended up shoving a cloth in its mouth. That failed, obviously, but the following morning, she noticed a man with the same cloth fibres hanging from his teeth. This allowed her, and some other villagers, to deal with the Kludde in its far less threatening human form. But if you don't fancy sticking your hands in a giant wolf mouth, you could simply throw your handkerchief in the air. This will cause the Kludde to hop off you immediately, as it's compelled to rip the fabric apart, fibre by fibre, and it might just afford you those few key moments to get home. And it never hurts to have a little silver. And if it doesn't work on the Kludde, maybe spend it at your local tavern. Speaking of silver, I see you've got quite a heavy looking coin purse there, adventurer. Why don't you let your trusty Tavernkeeper take a little of that weight? Go on, check out the ales. Well, look who's still hanging around. Cheers to you, my steadfast listener. If you fancy shielding this cosy spot from suspicious spell slingers or sketchy magic warden salesmen, smashing that subscribe button works like a charm. And you can find Creature Tavern wherever frequency ferrets scuttle about. Simply summon us by name. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or that mysterious app you keep forgetting the name of. And if you're willing, I've got a tiny favour to ask. Would you mind leaving us a review? You'll have a drink behind the bar waiting for you. Now that's enough tavern talk for one break, I think. So why don't you lean back and prepare to meet our last wondrous beast. Thanks for sticking with me, adventurer. Ah, you went for the Blood Rot Brew. Excellent choice, adventurer. Now, those last two creatures were intense. So let's end this week with something a little different. Something far, far more depressing. I'm of course speaking of the Squonk from American folklore. The poor, miserable Squonk. If ever a creature embodied sorrow itself, it would be this pitiful beast. The Squonk is a creature of perpetual woe, a living manifestation of self-loathing and despair. Its very existence is cursed by an overwhelming sense of melancholy, as though the weight of the world's sorrows have been placed upon its small, hunched frame. I had a good few patrons help conjure an image of this unfortunate fiend, and well, let's just say they didn't hold back. Apparently, you won't find a more wretched looking thing in all your travels. Its skin is an ill-fitting mess, said to be a size too big and littered with warts, moles, eczema-ridden scales, blemishes, and patches of shaggy, brittle hair that seem to sprout out at random. Imagine a little pig, but awkward and utterly unkept, with cauliflower ears caked in wax and yellowed, crooked tusks protruding from its sorrowful maw. Apparently, the sight alone is enough to inspire pity, but from what I've found in some resurfaced journals, it's the Squonk's demeanour that truly solidifies its reputation as a creature of tragedy. From the catalogue of Squonk features, everyone who's seen the critter agrees that its most striking feature, without a doubt, are its enormous, watery eyes, eternally brimming with tears. What's interesting is what I found in a few old records, that the Squonk weeps, not out of fear or injury, but simply because it exists. It's quite aware of its ghastly appearance, and worries it'll never be loved or admired, so it mourns its own wretched form every waking moment. And the few who've encountered one speak of a haunting sorrow that lingers in its presence, like a thick aura of sadness, so strong it'll make even the most hardened adventurers feel a lump in their throat. And fun fact, in Johnstown, Pennsylvania, they hold a festival in honour of the miserable beast called Squonkapalooza. So there's a bit of joy in this sad, sad tale. The Squonk's history of habitation is quite a sad story in itself. From what I've got from old scrappy notes and tales from drunken patrons, it seems the Squonk originally roamed scorching, barren deserts, likely to avoid being seen by any other life. But the harsh lands proved too cruel, even for this miserable soul, so from there it seems the creature wandered into swamps, before eventually settling in the hemlock forests of Pennsylvania, where the dense foliage provide that much-needed cover from prying eyes. And it's here, among the towering trees and dimly lit undergrowth, that the Squonk makes its sorrowful home. This creature of ceaseless misery spends its days and nights doing as we all have from time to time, wallowing in self-pity. And can you see that party over there? Yeah, the ones with the lovely dog. They say it strictly travels under the cover of twilight and dusk, forever lamenting its own grotesque existence. These trackers say to find one, simply follow the glistening trail of tears it leaves behind, and you'll have a real good chance of seeing one on a cold, moonlit night as the squonk moves even slower. Not just because of the temperature, no, but because it really can't bear the sight of its own reflection. So much so, it avoids every puddle it sees. I honestly can't stress enough just how much this creature seems to hate itself. And in a cruel addition to this sad story, I heard the squonk has webbed feet, but only on its left side. And it's this unfortunate design that forces the squonk to swim in hopeless circles till it sinks, exhausted. That's likely why many accounts of the squonk end with them drowning. Some even claim that when captured or frightened, the squonk has this most unique escape tactic. It stops, stunned by the event, then dissolves entirely into a puddle of its own tears. After hearing about that, I bet you're even more eager to get your hands on one of these. Well, another aid in tracking this dreary whelp is its melancholy wail, often heard on the trail. It's apparently a haunting, eerie sound that lingers in the air like a thick, sorrowful stink. Those who've heard it describe it as a blend of deep sorrow and almost like a creepy, childlike whimper. Lucky for you, adventurer, I managed to find record of one hunter, a certain J.P. Wentling, who successfully captured a squonk. These writings say he mimicked its gloomy wail, luring it close and trapping it in a sack, only for the beast to liquefy in despair before he could display his prize. I can tell you've had this one last question on your mind since we started talking of the squonk. Well, there's one prevailing theory that says the creature splits in two, like a single-celled organism undergoing mitosis. And given its loathing of its own form, such a method of reproduction might be the only way it tolerates creating more of its kind. Now, if you're lucky enough to encounter the embodiment of sorrow, what should you do? Well, not much really. The only thing I can recommend is to bring a waterproof bag. I couldn't find anything that says what happens to the squonk after it's turned into tears. It's quite possible that it could turn back, and if it does, it's probably best that you have all the tears. It already looks bad enough, never mind if it missed an ear or a leg or two. And that's pretty much it, adventurer. The squonk is a sad, shy little critter, harder on itself than it'll ever be on you. So if you ever manage to bag one, I'll pay a good coin for the watery remains. Reckon I could sling that as a new brew. Well, as always, that was our last creature for the week. We've learned of a possible infinite werewolf glitch, that carrying a little butter in your pack might just save you from one hell of a bad back, and that in a pinch, a squonk will easily fill your water skin. Now that bell means it's last call here at Creature Tavern, so grab yourself one more drink for the road, and until next time, tread carefully, adventurer. You never know when you might wander into the weird